Lavrov could end up in prison and Gerasimov faces dismissal. Putin has completely humiliated himself before the elites and will pay them money. Russian planes will be shot down in Europe. The Russian Orthodox Church is urging pensioners to sell their apartments and retire. In response, pensioners have started beating children in the streets. Solovyov wants the destruction of Russia, while Milonov wants the destruction of Mayonnaise. One less war in the world, and not just that. Hello, everyone. This is Karina Klishuna with you, and this is the program In Trend. I've gathered a lot of interesting news for you, and believe me, we have plenty to discuss today. So let's get started. I'll start with some good news. Now, Russian planes will be shot down in Europe as well. Yes, it only took 3 years. The European Parliament has recommended that EU countries shoot down Russian planes if they violate their airspace. The European Parliament adopted a resolution stating that it supports all measures aimed at a coordinated and proportionate response by EU countries in the event of any violations of their airspace, up to and including eliminating potential threats from the air. And, of course, they condemned the violation of airspace by Russia, Poland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Romania. But for now, the Russians are doing a pretty good job of destroying their own planes. In the Lipetsk region, they crashed their own Su-31. That's the 4th one since the beginning of the year. Meanwhile, for the first time in 9 months, the Ministry of Defense admitted to shooting down an Azel plane. Moreover, he apologized to Aliyev. Just look at the expression on the face of the Azerbaijani leader and at how Putin does it.
Now, overall, we can talk about the causes of this tragedy, which are connected to several circumstances. The first is that we did not bend down. We were stinging in the Romanian airspace. We saw 3 drones that actually crossed into the Russian Federation. At night, I think we didn't bend down. The second significant reason truly lies in the technical failure of the system itself, working against it.
He was sitting in a slouched position and mumbling. I haven't seen anything like that in a long time. As soon as Aliyev supported the Ukrainian army, Putin immediately decided to apologize and promised to pay compensation. But of course, he apologized in his own style. He says that Russian air defense did not hit the plane directly. Supposedly, the missile just exploded a few meters away from it. Of course, that's nonsense, because the plane wouldn't have sustained such damage. Moreover, he also blamed Ukraine and its command here. Supposedly, it was all because of a Ukrainian drone, since the air defense was targeting the drone. Everyone is to blame except Putin. But from his high position, he still decided to allocate some money. Of course, the Kremlin did not appreciate this. Moreover, as Russian media report, not publicly, Aliyev demanded that Putin stop persecuting the leaders of the Azerbaijani diaspora. Vladimir was in no hurry to agree, but he promised that all cases of detention would be thoroughly reviewed. In the end, it seems the conflict was somewhat diffused, but now the elites are unhappy that they had to admit it. And now the conflicts won't be with Azerbaijan, but within the Kremlin itself. Somewhere, the geostrategist miscalculated or is changing strategy. And what do you think about this? Write your thoughts in the comments. You know I'm always in touch and I read everything. And I feature the best ideas in my show. And today, the medal for the best comments goes to these people. And don't forget to make me happy with your like and subscription. It's very important to us. The strategy in diplomacy is clearly changing. As Russians write, Putin was advised to put Lavrov in prison for treason. And it's all because of the conflict between the foreign ministry and Ushakov. Lavrov's misstep, Ushakov is already denying it. And such things shouldn't happen in the system.
The assistant to the president of the Russian Federation, Ushakov, directly refuted the statement by Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Ryabkov that the agreements between Putin and Trump in Alaska have already been exhausted.
There are contradictions between the foreign ministry and the Kremlin on the American issue. That's why Lavrov might end up retiring. Dmitriev is clearly not against being used in this way, especially after he fell out of favor with Putin. According to Russian media, resignation is the easiest thing that could happen to Lavrov.
A signal was sent to Vladimir Vladimirovich from Dmitriev's side. Lavrov committed treason. He interfered with the normalization of our relations with the Americans. He essentially went against the Kremlin and must be punished. The minister must be immediately dismissed and put behind bars. A 12-page document detailing these accusations has been handed over to the president. This was reported to us by a VIP source.
As is known, Putin is already familiar with the accusations and has instructed competent people to check everything. Lavrov now lives in anxiety and fear. According to sources among diplomats, he is constantly afraid for his life. He pays little attention to his personal safety. Koy is not giving up his position. But it's not just about Lavrov. Gerasimov could also be dismissed. For them, omens and faith are a lost cause. The chief of the general staff was unsettled by the location where the meeting with Putin and other military leaders began. It was the tomb of Russian emperors in the Peter and Paul Cathedral in St. Petersburg.
You, of course. You, to be continued. There is a definite need to talk in person, face-to-face about this matter. A good reason. I decided to start our meeting here because this is the tomb of those people who, in essence, shaped Russia over time. I think you will also find this interesting and pleasant. Father, you may now, if you please, begin. Afterwards, we will then proceed to another designated location and have a productive working meeting there. And then I invite you to lunch.
And the military are very superstitious people.
Military people are superstitious, and Valery Vasilievich is no exception. They all work under constant threat, from general to soldier. That's why it was not very pleasant for Valery Vasilievich to meet with Vladimir Vladimirovich essentially at the graves. It's not a good sign, it's a bad one. Maybe even an omen of death. God forbid, of course. This was admitted to us by a source close to Gerasimov. He didn't specify whose death the omen might refer to.
We'd like to believe in Putin's death, but for now it's hard to believe. The Ministry of Defense called such fears rumors. They say Gerasimov is just worried that he might be forced to retire. It's long overdue, considering how much he lies to Putin about the situation at the front. Meanwhile, Solovyov has decided to destroy Russia.
All right, let's see. All right, well, whatever, it doesn't matter.
But he said this in the context of nuclear weapons. He was talking about Tomahawk missiles, which are so feared in Russia. He says, that's nuclear. So in response, they'll strike back with nuclear weapons. And it doesn't matter that there won't be a nuclear warhead on it.
But isn't the Tomahawk a carrier of nuclear weapons? At the same time, unlike the F-16, which can carry missiles with special warheads, the Tomahawk is already that very missile, the launch of which definitely, let's say, sharply increases the likelihood, because how can we know what kind of warhead is on it? So in actual fact, with the launch itself, since this is indeed strategic weaponry, our established nuclear doctrine is immediately activated, meaning a swift and decisive retaliatory strike. Is that correct? Well, yes. That would quite probably be the end of humanity as we know it indeed. But we would certainly go to heaven, and they, on the other hand, would just simply die like dogs.
This tough guy isn't afraid of anything, not even the fact that for saying things like this, he might attract the attention not only of psychiatrists, but also the CIA, Mossad, and the FSB. But he keeps seeing a Ukrainian trace in everything and blaming Ukraine for everything.
An attempted coup in Georgia, Ukrainian trace. Pressure on Moldova, Ukrainian trace. An assassination attempt on Natis, Ukrainian trace. Now they're preparing an attempt on Orban. Are we sure this isn't a Ukrainian trace? 2 assassination attempts on Trump, Ukrainian trace. Explosions on the Nord Streams, Ukrainian trace.
Do the children look like Zelensky? Ukrainian trace? I know that many of you are watching us from outside Ukraine, and I'm curious to know from which side you're watching this video. Do you support Solovyov's views, or are you still on the side of common sense? Write in the comments. It will be interesting to see where viewers are watching from.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
And in Primorsky Krai, people realized they're living in hell, so they decided to go on strike. We're talking about the workers of Primorskaya Gres. More than 60 employees, welders, electricians, and installers, started spending the night on the company grounds, protesting against delayed wages. Moreover, they are even threatening to jump off the roof.
In the vast Primorye region, many people are currently not being paid their rightful salaries, and in a desperate act, the management dramatically climbs onto the roof of the building and gravely threatens to jump. The boss paid the money.
The contracting company where the employees worked is not paying their wages due to problems with the client company. The workers, left without any means of subsistence, refuse to leave the site despite the cold nights in Primorye and the lack of basic living conditions. Only after media coverage did the prosecutor's office decide to launch an investigation. That's how much Russia doesn't care about the people without whom there would be no electricity or water in our homes. Well, what do they even think of themselves over there? Soon they'll become elderly, and the elderly are supposed to give up all their housing and die. That's exactly the idea that priests from the Russian Orthodox Church came up with, also that people wouldn't have abortions.
To those parents who tell their beloved daughters to kill their own grandchildren, I always emphatically say, if you truly love your precious daughter so very much, then please sell your valuable property so that she doesn't feel compelled to kill your innocent grandchild. Sell your entire property, generously give it all to your daughter, and then perhaps consider passing on yourself. You've already lived a full life. You already deeply know what true love is. You profoundly know what life itself is. Give your grandchildren a chance to live,
said the elderly priest. Is there at least one normal person left there, or are they all like that? Trump hasn't decided yet whether to send missiles, but he has definitely decided to end the war between Hamas and Israel. He announced that the war is over. This was also confirmed by the leader of Hamas. A ceasefire has come into effect in the Gaza Strip. The release of all 48 remaining hostages in Gaza in exchange for about 2,000 Palestinian prisoners is the first stage. By the way, Trump, who was really hoping for the Nobel Peace Prize, did not receive it. Today, it was awarded to Maria Corina Machado for her struggle and for achieving a just and peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy in Venezuela. Ironically, back in January, Trump was praising the Venezuelan opposition leader, but she has now surpassed him, while he, who claimed to have ended 7 wars, was left with nothing. By the way, earlier in Venezuela, he was threatening war. And in Russia, they found yet another enemy. Now it's Mayonnaise. So far, no nuclear or cyber attacks are being planned against it, but Milonov is proposing to ban its sale.
I would ban the sale of pro paintings. We've even created a special group for this in the State Duma, as part of Volodyn's initiative on palm oil. After all, almost all products that cause obesity usually contain either trans fats and accordingly glycidol, which is a strong... No, it's just like carcinogen, one of the strongest, and the second ingredient is sugar.
It's truly hell
For the Russian nation. And even if you eat natural products, if
you don't know moderation, you'll still get fat.
If you don't know moderation, you should be sent to a psychologist at the state's expense, or better yet, to a psychiatrist who can help you figure out what your problem is.
So, in the end, either to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, said Milonov, who himself can't exactly boast about being slim. Soon he'll say that only gays eat mayonnaise too. What makes me happy is that even children in Russia who have been brainwashed by propaganda know what life in Russia is like. What's scary is that they don't want to change anything. A fighter from the so-called special military operation received a very interesting letter from a schoolboy.
Hello, dear soldier. I study at the first school in the city of Kulibyaki. I think after 11th grade I'll go to the front since I won't pass the exams. In this life I only love sleeping and eating, so I have no future. I'll die in the trenches. A child.
Child, please, truly don't do that. Just study.
Okay.
Out of the mouths of babes, as they say, but what about them? They're having fun, they're laughing. It's no wonder that a child thinks this way when these are the kinds of teachers they have at school.
You don't understand, I'm not stable right now. I just arrived recently, I was in Ukraine. Don't push me, I'm telling you honestly. I'm asking you, work quietly.
In Kaluga, as the mother of one of the students said, a new teacher like this appeared. He periodically loses his temper, yells at the children, and then calmly explains it by saying that he came to the children after the war. What exactly he teaches is not specified to the children. Why he was even allowed into the school is also unclear. And since this is the new elite, no one has the right to say anything to him. Bravo. But in the city of Nakodka, it's not teachers like this who attack children, but pensioners. After the girl refused to give up her seat to an elderly passenger, the man sat right on top of her, twisted her arm, and the old woman sitting next to her simply applauded the aggressor.
Applause, enthusiastic applause, resounding applause, more applause. Please get off me, I emphatically said. Applause.
At first, police refused to open a case, saying the man could not be found. After the public outcry on social media, the pensioner was eventually detained and a criminal case was opened against him. They're just sick. And finally, a competition that Russia has finally won. A contest to see who can clean a toilet the fastest and best. The video has already gone viral online. But I hate to disappoint you, the video was made by artificial intelligence. So even in this sport, Russia can't win. No one has dared to clean wooden toilets for speed yet. Tindrovo is picking up speed, the brush is running like a motor, a quick spray and the rim is spotless. Handle down finish, 36.20, the best result of the season. Green light on the track, Russia.